Well, hi Rachel, and thank you very much for inviting us into 151. And there's quite a history with digital and IT in the NHS, isn't there?
I would say that's almost certainly true. So, I mean, you know, it's wildly complicated, the NHS. And I think, looking at it as an outsider coming in, I initially thought it was just one huge organisation. And I've described it a couple of times as being a bit more like a huge kind of shoal of fish. There are so many different parts and components to this organisation, and for that and varying reasons around how funding flows through the organisations, it's not easy to transform at scale. And we will all have caught in the news previous attempts to do so, but I'm absolutely confident that we're in a very good place now, with a clear view of our estate to kind of build on what we're doing and where we're going.
I mean, one of the criticisms of the National Programme for IT was that they tried to eat the whole elephant at once and didn't properly engage with some of the stakeholders, I think. Would you say that's probably right?
I mean, that was before my time. That's not a Teflon response by any stretch. But I think we've got a pretty good handle on who we need to engage with and what our role needs to be. So, my remit, from when I first came in, it was made very clear to me that we will sit at the centre, we will look to drive some stuff nationally, some regionally, and some locally. And to enable us to land that properly, we've got to work with a whole raft of organisations that constitute the NHS.
Yes, because I mean it's a big stakeholder base, isn't it?
Absolutely huge. And what we absolutely don't want to do is at the centre drive stuff forward and mandate. The days of that happening and landing are long gone. So we're actively wanting to engage with the stakeholders.
So what would you see as the vision and the mission of the NHS Digital Group?
I mean, from a wider organisation perspective, we've got a pretty key role as a delivery partner for Department of Health and for NHS England to land the paperless 2020 agenda. So there's no denying it's an ambitious programme of work with a raft of work streams running concurrently, and we are making good progress against that. The end point, I guess the hint really is in the name, paperless 2020. Will it be entirely paperless by 2020? We'll have a damn good go. But it's less about the paperless aspect and more about improving services for patients, for clinicians, and for people generally accessing services from the NHS. So lots of other sectors have already been disrupted in a positive way by digital, and we know that we can deliver services easier, more cost effective, and also get individuals to take ownership for some of that stuff. And I think that self-care piece is particularly prevalent right now. People are really wanting to take ownership and play their role, and we're wanting to harness that.
So what are the major obstacles, what are the major challenges would you see to that?
I mean, like any public sector organisation, any organisation at all, the scale of the stuff that we're trying to do here is massive. I described my role earlier today as probably one of the most complicated digital transformation roles in government. I firmly believe that the digital transformation that we're doing at the minute is probably one of the largest in the world. And so, we've got to balance an appetite for speed with doing it the right way, with the stakeholder engagement, and with actually making a demonstrable benefit to patients. So this is not about shiny IT systems and us working with large systems integrators and buying new solutions. This is about a digital transformation journey where we have to track and see the benefit that we're making as we go through. And that's complicated, and it's complicated because to even baseline how the NHS operates as one entity right now is quite a challenge. And to track the benefits against that is equally challenging. But the reality is, you know, we cannot continue on with the health system the way it is. It was designed for a very different population. It was designed some years ago, and I'm a firm advocate that, you know, digitising will enable us to kind of build out a solution for their future, but it's going to take a lot of hard work.
So who are the major customers for you?
I mean, my customers, my domain is entirely patient-facing.
Oh yes, because you've formally got that role, haven't you?
Yeah, so everything that touches a patient, I'm responsible for that as part of this digital transformation. But in way of who are our customers, you know, you've got every CCG, STP, you know, there's government, there's patients, there's clinicians. It's a wide, you know, it's a plethora of people. And that also explains how we've assembled some of the teams within Paperless 2020. So, you know, my team is not just made up of technical and digital people. You know, I have clinicians that work full-time as part of Domain A to make sure that we're doing this in the right way. Yes,
I think you've got to have that. And I think that's probably one of the weaknesses that was laid at the door of the national programme, wasn't it? That not enough engagement with.
Yeah, as I understand it, it absolutely was, and I think things have moved on. You know, from when I first implemented the web-based social care system, we're probably going back 10 years, if not more. And at that time, we pulled subject matter experts in who were social workers to help. What we never did at that time was bring in service users. I was almost going to use the patient term, but absolutely service users from a social care perspective. And that's a really interesting shift. You know, us understanding our data better for the services we provide now, tied in with user research, engaging with users and clinicians, means we've got a holistic view around our offering.
So what about impact and influence on other organisations?
So I think the impact, when we get it right, will be pretty profound. You know, we are working now. We have the LGA sit on the board for Domain A.
Oh, right.
Local government representation. And we are working with a really broad range of stakeholders. So we have government digital services sitting as part of the board. It is ultimately going to be about how do these public services join up and share data better to provide an improved level of service. Some of the pilot stuff that we're exploring at the minute around shared care records is wider than just health and social care. So there's certainly areas where we're looking at health, social care and other local authority data. So it's getting into true joint working.
Right, yes. And one of the issues that keeps coming up is identity management. How are you tackling that?
So identity is not, first of all, identity is not a service in its own right. So for identity or for authentication with the NHS, you need to have a live service that requires that service. And by that I mean, we toyed when I first came in with having a look at Verify, seeing if we could adopt Verify that GDS had built. And we're running an alpha right now to explore that. My thoughts, and perhaps more importantly, my team's thoughts around citizen identity are that we will have a kind of hub model of multiple solutions. And the reason for that is you know, we are not an identity and access management supplier, and nor should we be. We absolutely, we need to know if somebody is accessing NHS services that they are who they say they are. They're not masquerading as somebody else. And so we're exploring Patient Online, who already have 10 million people who are using a solution. We're exploring Verify, and we're starting to look at some other alphas in other parts of the country to pilot that. So I think our ultimate offering in this space will be a kind of hub model of multiple different solutions. And by that I mean if I already have a Verify account, I would expect to be able to use that for part of my health experience. If I need to do a little bit of something else on there to access my health records, then no problem.
So trying to make it easy for
Absolutely.
the citizen.
We don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And we certainly don't want to start from scratch.
So you're more of a user of identity services.
I think we're a user. Are there off-the-shelf ones that are there now and will fit all of our needs? Absolutely not.
No.
I wish.
I know I had a certain amount of experience of that, trying to put in the child index. And
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's complicated. And, you know, the stuff around masquerading, domestic violence, we've got to be really careful with this stuff and we've got to get it right. And if we were to launch something that wasn't right, you know, it would be it's such a fundamental part of the paperless 2020 agenda. So we will have a look at what's out there. We'll do some experiments. We'll run some tests. And then we will have a look at how best to land that. But it almost certainly will be a hub model with made up of multiple solutions.
That's great. Now digital, moving to digital, and you've got a large potential user base moving to digital. That's big cultural change. How's that going to be tackled?
So I'll start internally. In way of our organisation, we've got about 2,800 staff. And are all of them as digitally fluent as we would like? No. I don't think any organisation could lay claim to that. But the first thing with any of this is about understanding the capability and the capacity of the teams that we've got around us. In some areas, and my domain is one of them, we're having a look at how do we tweak our operating model to meet the demand of the paperless 2020 agenda. And by that I mean I have about 220 staff that constitute Domain A. And if we were running at full capacity now, we'd probably have about 350. Now I don't intend to go and hire another 130, but I will go and work with some vendors to augment the capacity and to cross-train and upskill some of our permanent staff as part of that journey. So I absolutely have, developers, designers, product leads, service delivery, you name it. The plethora of digital skills are there. But I think the sheer volume of what we're trying to land, we are always going to need to grow new talent, and that will be done in a variety of ways. So we're looking at bringing apprentices in. We're looking at how do we cross-train permanent staff working alongside vendors, and there's a whole heap of different ways that we're looking to achieve that. The paperless, the Fit for 2020 is a very clear approach that lays out our capability and capacity currently, and where we're going to be heading to going forward.
So everybody's talking about the skills gap, skills challenge, etc. How real is it for you, and how real do you think
I mean, probably no different for me, Bill, than anybody else. Everything is moving faster. All of us want stuff instantly, and the scale and complexity of this organisation, of healthcare generally, means that we have got a challenge to meet that. But we're absolutely aware of that. One of the things that I'm particularly proud of working for NHS Digital is the fact that we have been very open about exactly where we are with capacity and capability. And we've published that report externally, said this is where we are. We know we've got a bit of a journey and a bit of a challenge around some of these skills, but we're up for it. We're going to get out there and do it. So we're looking at lots of different models to help us land this.
Are you a service, or are you a consultancy group, or are you the business itself?
So that's a really interesting question. If I take that one step back, the three key players from a health perspective, we've got Department of Health that would set the policy. We have NHS England that would commission, and we have NHS Digital who are the delivery partner. We, as an organisation within NHS Digital, we have back office support functions. We have, front office teams who are driving a lot of the digital delivery. I think it's a blend. We have clinical responsibility for some of the decision making, but we have a heavy kind of weight on us around delivery. And so it really is a blend. You know, you can't have one organisation who are responsible for the digital stuff not working, you know, totally entwined with the others.
Absolutely.
And the reality there, you know, to give a real life example, my senior responsible officer is from NHS England. Yeah, if you were to see us engaging, you would have thought that we work for the same organisation. So we're very much.
You're in the same building, though.
We're in the same building. We are. Not all the time. She does let me off the leash once or twice a year. But we do work very closely, as we do with Department of Health.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So beyond 2020, what's happening then?
That's a really good question. You know, we've got some very specific milestones and plans around 2020, but this will not all end in 2020. You know, it's a huge challenge in way of the digital transformation, in way of healthcare generally, and it will continue. You know, I think that we've got some real momentum at the minute, and we've got excitement around what we're delivering. And we are engaged heavily with stakeholders, but I think, you know, this journey will continue. And what is transformation today will be transition and, God forbid, legacy tomorrow. So it's, you know, it's a never going.
It's always thus.
Absolutely.
Just one little question. We're doing a series of these interviews, and just wondered if there were any particular CIOs or CTOs that you thought might be of similar interest to yourself to interview. I would say, if you haven't already, then James Finlay is almost certainly somebody that I would that I rate personally, and that I would sort of turn to for help and advice. But somebody who has done some really interesting transformation with HS2 and DFT before. Right. So yeah, I would recommend having a conversation with James. DFT is another big challenge.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Rachel, and really interesting. And you've certainly got a challenge there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.